2:30 in the morning.
2:30 in the morning? You're kidding
Yeah.
me. Are
No,
you a ni- Are you a night bird?
I am a night bird. I am definitely a night owl.
Okay, because I was like, oh my gosh, didn't I give you like normal time to do a podcast? Hello and welcome to another episode of ommmsome Life Design Podcast. I'm so grateful for you being here today, wherever you're listening, on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes. It's amazing that you come back and listen to my podcasts. And if you have never ever messaged me and let me know that you're listening to my podcast, please do. Even if you're my friend, but I don't know that you're listening to my podcast, please just message, hey, Monta, listen to this podcast. Because it's really nice to know who's on the other side. Like, I just see the numbers. It's nice to know their names and know who's behind that. And today, ommmsome Podcast is all about amazing people who inspire me to live better, to grow, inspire me for self-development. And today I have joeyhauss in the house. He's a certified Wim Hof instructor, breathwork facilitator, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm a little bit grateful that he's in LA, and we're doing this through Zoom, because otherwise if I ask the wrong question, who knows. Anyhow, Evolving Out Loud team member as well, and that's how I found him, because I've been following Kyle Cease for a while after reading his book, and then just listening to his videos and inspiration, and they were just talking about darkroom. So I was like, okay, let's get this guy on the podcast and make him tell me more what the darkroom is about, because I was inquiring about darkroom after listening to a podcast with Mantek Chia. So this is all going to be about darkroom. We recorded a very long episode. This is the first part. The second part is more about allowing the energy to flow through you and a deeper conversation. So press subscribe so you know when the next episode is out. And please leave a review. That helps me a lot. That brings the podcast out to more people, because that's how algorithms work these days. So your comment, your like, your little star thingies are very, very valuable to me. And the last thing before we go into the podcast is Manifesting Through Journaling group on Facebook that I'm starting this week, and you can join at any week, and it's going to be ongoing, different topics for journaling guided with me. You'll get on calls with me, and I'll make my best to share all the tools that I have for you to grow in journaling way faster than I did, and to see how you can manifest, how you clear old blocks, how you can create new life, how you can grow through journaling. So if you want to join that, ommmsome@gmail.com, that's my email, or just message me on Instagram, ommmsome, that's OMMSOME, and enjoy this podcast. What is a dark room? How would you explain it? Because you've been there. I only read.
So, I mean, it's basically just what it sounds like. So, the darkness retreat, you do go into a room. Everything, there's like, if there are windows in there, they're completely blocked off. The door closes and there is no light that gets in there whatsoever. I spent 10 days essentially in total isolation, with the exception of once a day, the guy who would bring me food would come, and it was with a double door system. So he would open the door on his side, put the food in, close the door, and then later on I'd grab the food on my side. So he'd come once a day, maybe for about a minute, just to make sure I was alive, bring me the food. And then other than that, though, complete isolation. And as I said, total dark. Everything you're doing is in the dark. Sleeping, bathing, bathroom, eating, everything in the dark in that one little confined area.
When you say it like this now, it's like, oh my gosh, this is creepy.
It's intense. It is definitely, it's pretty intense. But like if you're into the personal development thing, it is intense in the most positive way, because it really is one of those things. It's what you make it. Because as I was going there, because there's people in my life, and I'm sure we all have that, of that people that really just don't really understand what the thing is. Like my parents said, like, that's torture, isn't it? Like, that's literally torture. It is.
That's one of my friends said. I was like, oh, I'm going to interview this guy for a darkroom. She's like, what? I'm like, that's horrible. I'm like, no, it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, it's the concept of what solitary confinement is, but at the same time, it is this kind of way of kind of separating from other, you can call it other energies, right? Like the way we just live day to day life, we have like these expectations from family, friends, work, society as a whole, all these little things that have, their say in how you think, how you communicate, how you act, and to just kind of get away from that for 10 days, where you really are just kind of in your own element, your own energy, and you start to gain these kind of new perspectives on things because you're not being influenced by the expectations of others, what you think others expect from you. And then, as I said, just kind of the news media being this 24-hour
Mm.
entity where either the news is on all the time or you have constant access to it. The way things are happening in the world kind of creates that need to always check, like, all right, is everything generally okay right now? And so to just kind of get away from all of it and just really kind
Mm.
of refocus on like your own priorities, really just kind of gain that new perspective on life. It's a pretty profound, powerful thing to do.
What was your own reason behind that? Like, why would someone put himself through it?
Yeah.
Like what was there going on with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So like it's just kind of been one of those things that I feel I've always been a bit of a seeker. Everything I've done in my life, from like even just like wrestling in high school and college, joining the Marines, all these things that I've done have been this kind of seeking thing. And then I'm not quite sure when it became a more or less like spiritual thing, whether it was
Mm.
doing various plant medicines or anything like that. But it was just kind of like that, and all those other things were kind of what opened up like my mind to things like this. And then I heard Aubrey Marcus had talked about uh, basically his experience. I think he did 4 days at a darkness retreat in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. And he talked about his experience and talking about how it was the most profound thing he's ever done. And like the reason I even did ayahuasca or any like a lot of other things I've done is because of Aubrey Marcus, how he brought it into
Mm.
at least my awareness. And so him talking about how profound 4 days in the dark were kind of opened my mind to it. And then I guess you can call him like my mentor, the man I work for, Kyle Cease, who has the company Evolving Out Loud. He went for 10 days. And when he came out, it was a noticeable change in his demeanor, how he spoke, how he carried himself, where it was, you can go to a thing with an expectation and kind of almost trick yourself into thinking, oh, like this was a really awesome experience. But
Hmm.
it was like his, for lack of a better word, I'm sure everyone in your community, but like energy, it was this energetic
Yeah.
thing, how he just was. And I figured, okay, definitely there was a change here. And so he had just had such a profound experience that he said, all right, if anyone on the team feels called to go, he'll help make it happen in any kind of way he can. And I said, oh, I feel called. Like the next day, just I want to go. And it's not like I want to go eventually. It's like I want to go, when is the next available opening?
Hmm.
And then
But
obviously,
when did you did yours?
when did I do it?
When, yeah.
It was June 5th to the 15th. So I just got back like literally less than a week ago. Or back, yeah,
Okay.
less than a week ago, yeah. So I'm
Super.
generally freshly out.
Freshly out from the dark room.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so what's the most benefit of it? What would you say for you personally? Like,
that
what's
is a
the
great
biggest,
question.
the ha?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one particular thing. As I mentioned before, just kind of the ability to get away from all these other
Hmm.
expectations, because there's so much of the character of who we are is kind of based on all these little external things. So just kind of being able to get away from that for 10 days to really see what's important in life. And also, like, at least for me, just being a man and even being in the personal development community, like I'm around people that cry all the time for various reasons, kind of digging in and finding these things. But
Yeah.
for me, it's just one of those, like every now and then with like a solid breathwork session, I'll maybe have a good emotional release. But in
Mm.
the 10 days in the dark by yourself, it happens. I just feel that I can't imagine anyone being in there not having some kind of release, whether it's the stress of being in the dark for 10 days or it's just after as time starts going by. Like it's just you and your mind in there. There's
Mm-hmm.
no thing to distract you. You become so aware of just in day to day life, you start to have a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of emotions come up, and we kind of grab these things that help
Mm.
bring that thing down. It's just a quick distraction. And most people kind of keep themselves at like a level of like, like I'm fine. And
Yeah.
so to kind of get that get that little, security blanket away and to allow the anxiety to come up, the sadness to come up, the boredness to come up with nothing to really do to distract from it. You're just there with it. And like the first few days, it's like a lot of crying, and it's not just from being sad, and it's just like a lot of like how beautiful life is, and
Mm.
realizing how much people maybe love or care for you, and just like your recognition of wow, like that's happening to me all the time, and I'm oftentimes oblivious to it. So as I said,
Oh,
just that
wow.
ability to get those new perspectives, to really see things from a new light. So you're not bombarded with every other person's stuff. You get to get your own perspectives on what it is you want. Plus, you kind of get to feel all the things that you're going through, and you get to see kind of like your mind is just it's constantly going, and you kind of get to see those little things that maybe you overlook in day to day
Mm.
life. And so for me, I just had a lot of just really profound moments, a lot of really good cries, and it was like I feel emotional weight is gone.
Mm, like going away. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
How would you describe from like, entering the dark room or actually a little bit before, like your expectations or something like how you prepared for it, then when first days? Because the only thing that I can relate through was 7 days in silence with Sadhguru. And, there was a little bit of like anticipation. Then I went the first 3 days, I wanted to kill myself because I was like, oh my gosh, all these, and then I got into like nice flow. And then it was like, oh, were you finished? I can stay
Yeah.
for longer. Yeah. How
Yeah.
was your this like journey from a little bit before first days, middle, and then an
Totally.
afterglow?
That's awesome that you mentioned
Tell
this. It's
me.
pretty similar, right? Because we start to see that the anticipation of the thing is oftentimes
Mm.
better or worse than the actual thing. And so when I made the decision to go, it was like from this place of peace. It was like, oh, look, I'm going to be able to do this no problem because I'm just so inspired to go. And then as got a little bit closer, then like my body kind of freaked out a little bit. It was, oh, this is going to be intense. 10 days is a long time, and to have nothing to look at and like nowhere to go, nothing to distract myself. And so when that happened, that was when I was like, okay, this is going to be intense. And so just kind of talking with friends and like this girl I'm dating right now. Basically, like the day before I went to the retreat, I was kind of stressing about it a little bit. And like she like did this really, it was like a really nice grounding exercise, and then kind of completed it with like you're safe inside your mind, you're safe inside your body. And so that was kind of a mantra going in, like, okay, just whatever happens, I'm safe inside my mind, I'm safe inside my body. And then kind of going there, I was still a little bit anxious. And then when I finally landed and got picked up by the guy Scott at the darkness retreat, it was like I felt a little bit relieved. The guy was, I can tell he was really nice, definitely cared about what he was doing, definitely in the work. And so like I felt at peace. Okay, I'm fine, I'm gonna be safe, I'm okay. Like I get there, he allows me to kind of familiarize myself with the surroundings. So I get into the room. This is before
Mm.
because he takes the light out. It starts off like you see the room before you're
Okay.
in it in the dark. So kind of allowed me to familiarize myself. Like I hung out. It's in Ashland, Oregon, which is all beautiful forest,
Oh, wow.
and so just
Hmm.
surrounded by trees. And so I'm just hanging out outside before it actually begins. And then all of a sudden, like I see a bear, probably less than 100 yards from me. So I'm like, all right, that's enough outside time for me. Go back inside and just kind of mentally preparing. I'm like, okay, I think I got this. And then the guy came back, said, all right, I'll be back tomorrow with some food, takes the light out, closes the door, and so it's pitch black. And at that point, I went, "Oh man, this is intense." Like the first few seconds was, "Whoa, this," because it's just the weight of all of it. That everything
Hmm.
I do for the next 10 days is going to be in total darkness, and so then it was okay, like trying to get my mind off of it. I took a bath, tried to relax, and a lot of just anxiety coming up, breathing it out, went to bed, had the most vivid dream. Like all the dreams I had,
Already on the
I
first day.
did one already, completely like I can't remember the last time I could remember a dream. And I totally remember all the dreams I had while I was at the darkness retreat. And so like I had a dream and it was like that. It was I woke up and I was still in the room, but the lights were completely on, the door was open, and there were people in the room. And the guy's like, "Oh, awesome! Like you completed day one. We just got to do some maintenance." And I was saying like, "Oh, okay, so it's not going to be all dark." And then people started coming in. I was like, "Okay, now I got to go to the guy and tell him this is getting ridiculous." I signed up for all darkness. And then as I go to find the guy, I wake up and I'm still in the dark. And so
Yeah.
it was a bit of relief of like, okay, like it's not like I'm still in the dark, but then it was, oh man, I'm still here and it's still completely dark. And so then the anxiety came up even more. And so the first day was just kind of battling that anxiety because
Mm.
it was every moment of that day was just completely dark. It was completely new. And then my brain just kept telling me, I have essentially 10 more days of this because I've only been in here a few hours. Like, so that even with that, it was so much. And then it just seemed that every few hours, I was like, a day has to have gone by. And then a few more hours went by, and the guy still never showed up with the food. I was like, a day has to have gone by now. And then a few more hours would go by. And then my brain just started being like, what if it's still 11 in the morning? What if like time has passed? And what if I do freak out in here? And it was just so much. And then that was like kind of like the first beginning, like the first emotional release of a cry. And then that was when I started to kind of understand, okay, I'm not gonna, like, the anxiety isn't gonna build up so much that my brain just melts and I go insane in here. It's gonna build up. I'm gonna have a release, and then it's like, okay,
Mm.
there's still more room to process. And so I kind of understood the game.
Oh, that's
Uh,
so beautiful what you just said. It's like, oh, it builds up and then you can just release it. Okay, it builds up and then you can, like, there is a cycle because I
yeah,
don't think many people, hear that in themselves or see that in themselves.
yeah.
Wow.
And like before there is that release, it is just kind of like, is every day going to be like this?
Mm.
Am I just going to freak out in here? And then, yeah, just having that release, it's because of what's amazing about the experience is that it's all internal. There's nothing like you're well fed. If you're cold, there's blankets, like you have a bathtub, everything that you need is in there. But is your brain going to play tricks on you? And are you going to worry about how much time you have? Are you going to worry that the guy has forgotten about you and now you're alone in the wilderness? Are you going to freak out that the world has just fallen into like war and economic ruin and famine by the time you get out? It's like all these things that your brain is just playing tricks on you. And so just kind of recognizing, okay, I feel better now that I let a little bit out. And then there was like just points throughout day one and day two, all the way to kind of like day five, that I would have these kind of releases. And then by day six, I was like, okay, this is fine. And it was actually enjoyable by that time.
Mm.
Every day, the anxiety became a little less, a little less. And then every day, I'd have like more and more moments where I would have like a profound breakthrough kind of thing where I'd have an emotional release, but it came from just like how loved and cared for I am in this world.
Mm.
And so, just like with that, I would just have these moments where I would just meditate for hours, just in total bliss, just totally with no additional anxiety coming up in the body or anything like that, but just feeling just uninterrupted, like uninterrupted from that internal place of bliss. And so just kind of having these realizations of, oh, okay, it's all these things in life. It is just kind of, we're adding all these elements of bringing anxiety onto ourselves, even with goals and things like that. But then to just kind of recognize,
Sure.
oh, with complete darkness, with only having the bottom two layers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs covered. I have food, I have shelter, and I felt this just perfect bliss, just perfectly in harmony with everything.
Mm.
I mean, that was a huge breakthrough for me, just really seeing that. Really seeing I don't need these things I think I need. I have these just as long as I have some certain baseline things covered and I allow for myself to kind of feel through these difficult moments, then just powerful bliss is on the other side.
That's so powerful. That's like truly powerful that, okay, I just have the shelter, I have the food, and I can be totally blessed.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't even have sight in those moments. And so like
Yeah.
really bare minimum, bare minimum. And then it was all like it was a shift in priority because of since leaving there, like I figured I'd get out, be motivated, have all these goals. But really, I kind of coming out, for me, the big goal has been just to kind of like let go of goals for a little bit. Where, because of,
Mm.
being in my life, I've been generally pretty disciplined between being a wrestler and a Marine and making all these goals happen. But I was like, all right,
Making
what
things happen, huh?
things
Like making
happen?
things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, what if I just let go of that for a little bit? So like right now, like I still because it used to be like I'll meditate for an hour a day every day at this time. And now it's like I'll meditate when I feel like meditating. And I'm still getting the meditations done, but it's not getting done from this place of like I need to do it for whatever reason. It's
Mm.
a place that's a little bit more free, a little bit more, without stress. And I'm just kind of playing with that for a little bit of, okay, I know the real thing I want is that feeling that I had while I was in.
Mm.
And it's always available and it's not attained by achieving the goal, by making the thing happen, by having the money, by having the stuff. It's like a level of just allowing life to happen. And so, I mean, for me, that's what I want more of being in that space. And can still make things happen from that space, but the priority is getting to that space.
That's amazing. You remind me so much of when I started like a deeper meditation journey, and I would literally just arrange my life around meditations because I understood like that brings me that happiness and that bliss feeling. So my
Yeah.
plans would be not around like how to achieve this, but just like how do I put myself in a meditative state. And
Yeah.
it was beautiful. It was amazing because like I had a totally different approach to life. I didn't think about like when should I eat because I need like something for my body or something for that. I was like, okay, what's the best time to eat for meditation? And it's just like so like the focus like switched, and I was in like this like super nice wave of meditation all the time. It
Yeah.
was so, yeah,
And for me,
amazing. Well,
were you gonna
no,
ask?
go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
for me, one of the big breakthroughs happened on the second day where, because I mentioned that Kyle had gone in the day before I did and had this experience, and he mentioned to me, make sure you bring something in that makes you feel comfortable, like a some kind of sentimental item. And I didn't really have anything that really came to mind, but one of my actually so like the girl that I'm dating and then another coworker had basically sent us T-shirts that they made just for like the people on the team, and with that one of the girls she sent in was like a crystal and an essential oil, and so like I brought that in just to kind of like, oh, it'll be a thing that smells nice and just kind of a thing like, okay, the crystal whatever. And so on day two I was about to get ready for bed and I put the essential oil on and I smelt it. And there was something about smelling it that connected me to the moment of whether she made it or she bought it. It was like this small thing of she either made the essential oil, bought it, and went, wow, like Joey would appreciate this. put it in the box and made sure it wasn't a thing she had to do or anything like that. But it was just such a small moment of care, like a little bit of
Mm,
love that was made in that moment. And just smelling it, like it connected me to that moment. And in being connected to that moment, I just got connected to all these other moments like it. And that was when I had was probably like the biggest cry of the thing. This was on day two. And that's like right after that cry, that's when like I sat in meditation for hours and just being so completely blissed out, just feeling so amazing. And then there was like it was raining, and because of like the whole hut was made out of like adobe, so it's like a mud that eventually turns into
mm,
rock. Because it was raining, it was starting to leak, and I can hear there was a point where water was leaking, and I can hear by the way the water was hitting that it was hitting like a piece of rock, and I can hear that it was starting to erode it. And so my brain went, okay, we need to put a towel down. I can see exactly. It's not that I can like see it, but while I'm meditating, I'm just so hyper aware of the room while feeling
mm.
I know exactly where the water's dripping. I know exactly where the towels are. And it's like my brain just kind of like the easy plan of, oh, get a towel and just open it up right there where that water's dripping to stop it from ruining that piece right there. And I remember I was thinking like, yeah, but like I don't want to walk away from this perfect moment. And then it was just like that higher voice was, you can bring this bliss with you. And it was just,
Wow.
it's such a simple
Profound.
thing. Because I've been meditating forever. And it's always like you meditate, you get to that high place, and then maybe something happens, the phone rings, someone comes in, someone interrupts, and you're there, and it's like, what? You're raising, and then you fall, and it's like, what? Where it's like recognizing you can go to that place and then get out of meditation and still be there. You can be meditating while you're driving, while you're sending emails, while you're getting gas at the gas station. All these things can be you still in that higher realm meditation state. It doesn't have to be like I'm meditating and now I'm not meditating. Like your meditation
Mm.
can be all these other things. And it was just such a weird, it was like this thing of like, oh, of course. But it's like I didn't really see it and understand it until that moment.
Mm, that's something that came to me quite recently, I think this year. This I am meditation. Not like I do meditation, but I am that, like you said, like you bring it with you. It doesn't matter if I do a podcast, like I can be like I can be in a total like meditative state, like a flow zone.
Totally.
But the question, what's something that you didn't expect that showed up, that like popped up, or maybe like something that you were like, oh wow, I'm like, 'cause we go with expectations anyways,
Totally.
with something like it's
Totally.
gonna be like something, and then
Yeah.
wow.
So like from the beginning, I didn't think I would cry as much as I did, and I didn't think I'd cry as
Hmm.
early as I did. I was like, all right, maybe I will, but it'll probably like tough it out for 4 days before something comes out. But it was day one, and it just happened, and it happened a lot. It was like, and that's the thing. I don't just. It's not like I'm a sensitive person in the world. I've gone through things that like never brought anything out, but day one that happened. And then also, I did also have the expectation that it would be more than it was, and I felt by day one, by day 10, I'd be like levitating and I'd have all these things. But it is like with meditation, you kind of go in and out of these things where you find these
Mm.
beautiful moments of bliss. And then you still like have those internal dialogues where you're arguing with a guy that ripped you off at a store 10 years ago, and you're like, I should have said that to him. Like still having those moments. And so like with 10, because it's like a 10-day meditation. And so you do go through these really profound moments of like, wow, I can't believe I'm capable of that. I haven't seen that. And then you
Mm.
have moments even day 8, 9, 10. I'm just like, I'm really bored right now. Like, man, that was a stupid thing I said that one time. And just going through all
Mm.
these weird fantasies, these weird memories of just kind of like, just still in like the regular person place where you'd think, man, after kind of essentially meditating all day for 10 days, that I would just be totally in just perfect harmony by like all of
Enlightened,
six
yeah.
times. So yeah, and it just didn't
like
work out.
like being enlightened, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. but it's still, you go through just like a lot of just general boredom, general whatever, just to kind of get through some of those days. So like a little of both of sometimes in some ways it was way more than what I expected, and some other ways I'm like, huh, I didn't think I'd still be like bored by day 10. I thought I would like
Mm,
overcome those kinds of things. But then like also like by like it was like day 6, I was actually excited about being bored because of like the first kind of beginning. I was just anxious a lot. And then it was just
mm,
kind of beautiful feelings and it's like, oh, like I'm bored. That's cool. Like it's just it's you start to get new perspectives on even your emotions. I'm like, oh, it's like it's nice to
mm.
be bored right now because being bored is way better than freaking out that I'm stuck here for another 10 days. And so you definitely play within all these different emotions because you go through so many different things while you're in there.
How was that? How did you know it's day six or day this or that? Like, were you counting?
Well, so like I would, yes, like so it was in the beginning I was definitely counting like a lot where like it
Mm-hmm.
would be like okay, it's like the night here, so I have 9 days left. Then I'd wake up in the morning like okay, it's about 8.5 days left. And I would know what day it was because of every day the guy would come and bring food at the end of the day. So I knew that the
Mm-hmm.
day had ended. And then by the end, I was just kind of like aware. You kind of know, like, okay, this is like the 6th day, this is the 7th day, where you're not really focusing as much because in the beginning it was okay, I just gotta suck this thing up and eventually I'll get out. Where in the end it was like, oh, like it's the last day. Oh, that's cool. It was just like a different desire to get out. It was like, okay, it'll be nice to get back to the real world versus like I can't wait to get the hell out of here, which was like
Mm-hmm.
I was like the day 2 to 4 thinking. But yeah, that's kind of how I knew it was the guy, Scott, who would bring food. That's how I'd kind of know, okay, a 24-hour cycle has passed. Because he'd bring enough
Mm-hmm.
food for the whole day. But yeah, like that's how I would know that. And I got know if it was morning or night based on, because you can still hear the outside world. So just
Of
general,
course. Yeah.
yeah, general birds chirping. I was like, okay, it's like the morning, right? Especially when I would first hear it. I'm like, okay, it's probably around 6 or 7 in the morning. The first light is happening. And then as soon as I would hear crickets, then I was like, okay, it's probably the early
Mm-hmm.
evening. It's probably like 6, 7 in the evening. So little things like that. You're definitely aware of when those things happen because there's fewer distractions around you.
Mm. And how, like, did you do like exercises or like, okay, you were sitting a lot in meditation, being in the dark, like what, like on a daily basis, like just practically, what were you doing with your body
Yeah,
while
yeah.
in there?
So like I would stretch every day. Like stretching was a thing I made sure I did. Doing the Wim Hof method breath work every day, kind of getting a new element of just kind of hormones going throughout the body. So I did that. And then like push-ups, sit-ups. And then because of the fact that it's a very small area, and also the bed, it's you have to climb a ladder and the bed's kind of right where my head is, and so I would like hold on to where the bed was, and I would kind of like in wrestling we would do these like little warm-ups where you're kind of like jumping back and forth in place, but it's like it's getting the blood flowing in the body, it's moving stagnant energy. So I would spend like a good amount of time just kind of doing that, moving the body around, just kind of like that. But yeah, like those were like the general things I did, just stretching, push-ups, sit-ups, and kind of just jumping like that, as well as doing the Wim Hof method breathing. So that's essentially what, as far as like working out in any kind of capacity,
Mm.
that's the kind of stuff that is generally available to you. Yeah, because like space is definitely a thing that makes things a little bit more difficult.
And how, what was the feeling when you left the dark room? Like, what
It
do you remember when the door opened?
Yeah. So it happened at nighttime, and he had a fire going. So he had a fire in a stove, and then he had it was like a candle
Mm.
inside a sound bowl. And so it was kind of like, all right, he told me, hey, it's day 10. I'm gonna start a fire, and then I gotta go and do something. I'll let you know when the fire and everything's going, and just feel free to open the door and come out.
Mm.
So like he had it all set. He left. I opened the door, and it was this weird kind of adjustment period because of like when you do go 10 days without seeing it all, and then kind of have sight. It's awesome that he had it the way he did, where it is a very soft thing because there is like a little bit of getting headaches. Just because of it's like, oh wow, like this thing that has been stagnant for 10 days is now being used. And so like just kind of the fact that it was soft was like still like, whoa, this is like a little bit intense. And then also like it's almost like your body doesn't fully trust your sight.
Mm.
So like I would feel a little bit
Oh,
dizzy.
wow. That's super interesting.
Yeah. And then I would still be a little bit off balance when I would move and everything like that. It was just, yeah, like my depth perception wasn't quite adjusted yet. So I'm like, all right, how far away is that? It would still be a weird kind of adjustment period happening. And even the next day when I left and went to the airport, it was like now it was like a lot. Now it's not just like I'm seeing, but now it is just all these other things. We're going to the airport, and luckily because it's in Ashland, Oregon, so like the Medford airport where I landed was pretty calm and easygoing. But then when I got to like San Francisco and LAX, it's just a lot of sensory input, like a lot of just people moving, sounds, people talking, lights. And so for the first few days coming back, I was just like being very tired. Like I just felt exhausted
Mm.
pretty easily just because of everything was a little exhausting because everything was just kind of new again. But yeah, like but it definitely was interesting because it was this little bit of a high getting to actually see again. I haven't seen in 10 days.
Mm.
Oh, like I can see, I can interact with things and I know where they are. And then it was also like just the good feeling of, wow, like I was in here for 10 days. Like there were times that
Yeah.
I want to quit and I didn't quit. And now I've done a difficult thing. And like in doing so, it is like you level up in a way. I remember the first time I
Mm.
meditated for an hour. It was just this thing I didn't think I'd be able to do. And then you do it, and then it's like, oh, I can do that now. That's a thing that I can just do. And so before, just imagining being alone in the dark for 10 days would be like, oh, like that would make me go insane. And then like I did it and was generally like like, I was uplifted and feeling good throughout the whole process. I was like, oh, I guess that's a thing I can do. 10 days alone in the dark
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be this big, crazy, scary thing. And so, yeah, like it was like those were the feelings of, like, wow, like I can see this is a good feeling. Then being a little bit dizzy, not quite trusting my depth perception. And then just kind of this, like, oh, like I accomplished something. It
Mm.
wasn't with the
That's
goal of like having an accomplishment, but you still feel that oh, like, I accomplished something at the end of
like
10
just
days.
feeling proud of yourself.
Yeah. So it was cool.
How would you compare this? I know those are two different things, but in the self-development and kind of like how it changed you personally, the plant medicine versus the dark room.
Yeah. So with like plant medicine, like ayahuasca, for example, everything is all like the whole experience is in the experience, meaning like in that probably like 8 or 9 hours that the ayahuasca is doing its work, you're all in for those times. So everything that happens is a big thing happening. And like even like the energy kind of moving around, it's all in this really elevated place. Where in the darkness, like there is no plant medicine, it's all you. And so there is this element of like with plant medicine, like I have felt these kind of feelings of like, oh, like this is what enlightenment is. And then like feeling that it's easy to attain, but then afterwards, it's like, yeah, like the medicine did the work. Versus like in the
Mm.
dark and you kind of go to those similar places, you're like, oh, like that's available to me. Like there was no external thing, but like in fact, there was actually I had less because all we did was get rid of dark, where we got rid of light, and I was able to attain this thing. I got rid of distractions, and I was able to get here. So like like the kind of getting to those places felt really, wow, like I did this, like, or like I'm capable of this.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's that element over like, the plant medicine, but at the same time, because you're also not under the influence of anything, like within 10 days, there are lots of points where nothing amazing or profound is happening. There are points where you spend hours just like, I'm bored. Like when am I getting
Mm.
out of here? It's just there's no bigger wow kind of thing that happened for several hours, like several, like giant chunks of several of the days are just like, like the hell's, like, am I done with this thing yet or what? Where like during a
Yeah.
medicine thing, like there's never any boredom like while you're in ayahuasca.
Mm.
There's moments of high anxiety, maybe of sadness, maybe of extreme bliss, like little moments of, oh my god, that's enlightenment. Like you get to experience all these like super elevated things, and that's all what the experience is. Versus, yeah, like in darkness you do have stagnant periods of like just kind of waiting out until like the next big breakthrough, and the breakthroughs aren't as like ginormous because like,
The intensity, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
suppose.
it's more subtle.
Mm.
It's a lot more subtle. But it's interesting that it still has like similar properties and like kind of like that
Mm.
energy movement where you do go to these different places, but it's just over the span of 10 days. Because yeah, like
Mm.
being in there for 8 hours really wouldn't produce that same kind of
Of
depth that
course, yeah.
and ceremony would get. But because it's 10 days, you do get to like all those different places. But yeah, it's just not as like, whoa, it's not as ginormous as, yeah, being like on ayahuasca.
But in a long, how would you say in a long term, like where, because I've also done plant medicine and it was like you described it perfectly, the intensity,
Yeah.
so high, low. But then the meditation practices and everything that I've done, just like I would say, like, okay, with this body, with whatever I have, like the breath work or yeah, meditations, it's like it goes for the long run. I
Yeah.
mean, the Iboga gave the insight of like it took me somewhere else and I came back. But then with all other work, I'm like, oh wow, I'm like, this is coming with me. It's like you
Yeah.
have like you're building your little backpack. How is
Yeah.
it for you? Like when you work with these things, because you work a lot with, self development.
Yeah. Um, so like as far as like long term, I mean, because of even with like ayahuasca, I've gotten things out of it that it is like it's just because of the intensity of it, it does kind of just shift a perspective. And for me, like ayahuasca, with doing ayahuasca or any of these other kind of psychedelia or anything like that, it is the awareness of these other realms that aren't available. Even like in like you have to
Mm.
meditate for such a long time to kind of reach the beginnings of where these kind of plant medicines can take you. But it's also that because of like you're in there even under the influence of a like a thing, it still shows that, wow, like these levels of depth in life exist. And so it kind of like, for me, like with plant medicines, it builds this humility, because you're like, oh, like this is only like level one of what I know is
Mm.
available in this 1,000+ level thing. Like this isn't anything. Like me trying to achieve the job, trying to get the money. Like I've spoken with God. Like this thing isn't really that
I
big of a
know.
deal.
I was like me and being proud of my work. I'm like,
Yeah. So it's like with plant medicine, like you, because it takes you there, I think that like within that short period of time could really create this like just different way of living and different way of looking at the world, because you've been to like such high realms. Where this, I feel like it just, what it did was it changed like my perspective in life in a different way, because I wasn't bombarded with the other people's expectations and things like that. It was just like this truthful, honest, just kind of insight of, oh, like that's what I want. Like that's what makes me
mm,
like that's what I should be spending more of my time doing, because of it is just so simple of, oh, like sitting here in this bliss is awesome. Like just feeling I'm not worried about anything in this moment. I don't need anything else in this moment. I just want more of this. So it's like this softer thing that you can attain day to day, this like kind of like this
Mm-hmm.
beginning level of almost enlightenment where I'm not bothered by anything because I don't need anything and nothing from my past can hurt me and like nothing, I'm not worried about what's happening in the future in this moment. So it's just like this like softer kind of, oh, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. This is how I feel right now is perfect. Versus, yeah, like the plant medicine, you're face to face with, other dimensions, and you're like, okay, got it. I'll humble myself.
Yeah. What are some things that you have been, doing since then that you implemented in a daily life just because you did the dark room retreat?
So yeah, as I said before, that like for me right now, I'm without like I still have like my long-term goals of like doing the work I'm doing and still on that trajectory. But for me right now, it's kind of letting go of those things because of
Mm-hmm.
doing, and that's what I think is really unique about this experience between like going to personal development events and you do feel motivated, inspired, like I'm gonna start that podcast, I'm gonna call that person, I'm gonna do that thing. And for me with this, because it was that like, oh, that freedom came, that beautiful like freedom feeling came from not trying to get more and trying to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, like that's what I know I want. And so for me, it's like I'm not meditating because like before it was kind of like an egoic, I'm going to meditate an hour a day because I think I'm going to be able to handle more stress and take on more of life versus like, oh, like I'm going to meditate because I know it feels good to do that. And I know it helps me get to that place. I'm not, I work out because like it makes me feel good to do that. And even with working out, because I've always like I've done jujitsu my whole life, and between that, wrestling, climbing, like all the physical activities I do are just fun. I'm not like the guy that's like I'm gonna work out 7 days a week and do this, that, and the other. It's like I'm gonna go to that place that I enjoy going. It makes me happy to be there, and it also just happens to give me all these additional health benefits. And so I want to approach more things in my life like that. And I feel I've been blessed to find things that, like for my physical activity, I've been blessed to find out with my work. But there are also like those little nuanced things of like I see in myself every time I go to these things, I create these goals for this amount of time. I'm gonna do this thing, that, and the other. And for like the next probably like month or so, it's like let's see how I get along with like nothing, like just like creating this level of freedom where I'm still gonna do the things that are productive and good, but I'm gonna do them because I enjoy doing them. Like that they bring joy
Mm-hmm.
to me. Like, and so it's bringing this new perspective of why I'm doing these things. Versus before you get so it's so easy to get so lost in these kind of goals that you ruin what the point of the goal was. And like I would do that with meditation, where it would be like I'm going to meditate an hour or 2 hours. Sometimes it was like I'm going to meditate for 3 hours a day for a month. I'm going to do this, and then it was to kind of release anxiety, relax, find this kind of higher version of myself. But I would find if like I maybe almost missed a day, or if I did miss a day, or I was only able to meditate 1 out of the 3 hours, I would just feel anxiety throughout the day.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, like the point of like me meditating was to get past this. And now it's kind of creating this anxiety. And so for right now, it is just like, I'm not trying to wake up earlier. I'm not trying to eat different. For right now, because of obvious, I don't plan on doing this for the rest of my life. But for right now, it is to kind of just gain this new perspective of, okay, when I'm free and left up to my own devices, what do I do? And I don't need to feel bad about eating the thing because I also feel like there's so many things of, like that what I just mentioned with meditation. Go like if you're eating a healthy diet and like you kind of go off on it, or if you're just like every day you just wish you were eating like a sweet or something like that, chances are you're not helping your health as much as you think you are if you're stressing about how you're eating every day.
Exactly.
You're adding this like new element that's really counterproductive to what you're trying to do. I saw this Ram Dass documentary, and he even talked about like you don't want to be one of these former smokers who's like, I haven't smoked a cigarette in 3 years, 7 months, 6 weeks, four
But
days.
thinking about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. He's like, you're gonna die from not smoking, and so like I kind of want to create a little bit of that of just there's nothing I have to do, and if there is something I have to do, I'll know, and I won't feel bad because I did. If I feel bad because I didn't do the thing, then chances are it didn't have to be done. Like,
Mm.
the things that help me survive and do, like, that's what has to be done. But all the other things, you know, I'm gonna meditate because I enjoy meditating. I'm gonna eat well because like I enjoy the way I feel when I eat well. And so just kind of the easing up on goals for right now is what like that was like the big takeaway for me on this darkness retreat.
Yeah. Once again, huge, huge thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you want to find Joy, his Joy House on Instagram, that's where you can find him. And if you have some comments, or if you want to just let me know that you listened to this podcast episode, just email me to ommmsome@gmail.com or message me on Instagram. It's always so helpful when you share what you learned and what inspired you, or just like, hey, I listened to your podcast. So yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're ready to take yourself to the next level of journaling, join my Facebook group, and that's going to be a super duper journey. And this is just the first episode with Joey Hauss. We talked about more about spirituality, and we did the deep dive into aligning, where you align with the power of the universe or the source energy, how things really, really expand and manifest in your life like instantly. And that's why I'm saying, like, one of the things how things manifest for me is through journaling, because I really, really put things into perspective, what I want, how I want it, and then I just allow it to flow its way, and it has brought beautiful things into my life, from my travels to my work to who I meet, how I connect with people that I would only think that I can connect with them, like maybe I can just be their fan on the Instagram or something, but I really, like, I met them in a person, I had a conversation, and then we worked together, and it's like, oh wow, how did this happen? Manifesting, and for me it very often happens, or mostly happens, when I journal, when I write things down, because they're clear, they're out there, and then I just allow them to happen. So yeah, join that, or just message me, let me know that you have listened, and let Joy know how he inspired you to go into the darkness retreat. See you in the next episode. Ciao.